Hi guys, it is time for me to show you all of the palettes that I used during the month of November. November was evidently a very neutral month. I have a lot of warm neutrals in the palettes that I used. Some of these palettes are very similar to each other. It was just a personal preference that day of what formula I wanted to use because the color stories are pretty similar. But those are the ones that I like. Those are my favorite color stories, and those are the ones that I like to use. I also had some collabs this month, so I will show you the palettes that I used and the looks that I created with those as well. So if you want to see the palettes that I used and the looks that I created, then stick around. Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Andi. I'm really happy that you're here. So as I show you the looks that I created, you will see the palette written on the photo itself, the palettes that I used, because some of them I used 2 different palettes, some I used 1 palette, some I used 3 palettes to create that look. So instead of me holding up all these different things at one time, I always have that written on there because it helps me to remember which palette I used for which look. So let's go ahead and get started. I have the Ace Beauté Smoky Roses palette. And I used this 4 times this month. I did. The one time I used it, I just used all the purples. And that was such a pretty look because I did have a purple shade in my project shades that I wanted to use. So I did that. And then the other ones that I used with other palettes. This shade right here is used in all the other ones because that was a shade in my Pan Those Eyeshadows. Now my Pan Those Eyeshadows color story changed during the month, but I still wanted to get all of my uses on that orange shade. I used the Stone Cold Fox palette this month. I love this palette. These 2 shades right here are in my Panning Cats and Dogs project, so I wanted to make sure that I got some good use on those. Plus, it's my favorite palette, so, you know. The next one I used is the Morphe Grand Glam. I think I used this twice. I used the Stone Cold Fox twice. I think I used this twice. I got this from Ash from Makeup in Chaos when they decluttered it, and I love using this palette. Those are huge pans. The pans don't need to be this big. They don't. I have another larger Morphe palette, and the pans are like half this size. But these pans are huge, but I love that it has cool and warm neutrals, and it has these pops of color in here, and that orange shade complemented the orange shade in the Smoky Roses palette very well, very, very well. The next palette I used was the Lorac Pro Meraki palette. This color story you're going to see quite a bit because I have 3 palettes in this, 4 palettes with this same type of color story. You know, I like variety, and sometimes I just like, I decide that I want certain formulas over other formulas, if that makes sense. Next up is a good example of that. I have the Violet Voss Pro Holy Grail palette. I received this as a, I believe, Christmas gift from, or birthday gift from Ash. And this is what I'm talking about. Because this color story and this color story are very similar. They're very similar. And I don't know. I was like, this one was in my Shop My Stash. And this was in my Shop My Stash. So those were already sitting beside me. But one day I was like, oh, I want to use the Meraki. Or, oh, I want to use this one. And it's just, I like variety. I like variety. Even if it's the same color story, I like the variety of the formulas. The next one I used is the ColourPop Peach Out. This was a gift from Janet. Janet is an amazing friend and subscriber, and she sent me this about a month ago, and I have used it a couple of different times, and I love it. I love ColourPop. You know I love ColourPop. But these shimmers right here, these shimmers are just beautiful, and they are so vibrant. I just love them. I love them. The next palette that I used was for a collab with Erica Conger. Erica and I did 80s and 90s questions So much fun. And we decided to use the Aussie Bat palette from Rock and Roll Beauty. And the packaging on this is everything. It is everything. I've always been, I was not a big hard rock person in the 80s and 90s. There was some rock that I liked, but I freaking loved Ozzy Osbourne, and I don't know why. I mean, other than the fact that he's amazing, and his voice is just everything. But this packaging, I love it. I love this packaging. I did not love the palette. I did not love the formula of this palette. I will keep this because it's fun and it's nostalgic and all of that. But I'm not sure that I'm ever going to use this palette again. I did not have a good time with it. I love the look that I created when it was all said and done. I did love the look that I created. I thought it was a really fun look, and I thought, and I really liked it. But I did not love using the palette itself. The next palette that I used, I did love using. I love using every single time that I use it, is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. This, again, was given to me by Mary Catherine Loves Cats, Cece from Painting for Goals, and Cece's Trial Size Life, and Laura the Bargain Hunter. They went together and gifted this to me for reaching 1K. I've talked about it many times before, but I adore this palette. It is such a beautiful color story. It is my color story. And as you can see, it's been used quite a bit now, and I love it. Love it. The next palette that I used is actually not technically a palette, but it's a palette that I built from singles. I did a collab with Zach Dooley, and we made a build your own palette from our Sydney Grace singles, and this is the palette that I created. Oh, I love this so much. It is so pretty. It is so pretty. And I loved using this. I love using my Sydney Grace singles, but I loved using this, and I'm going to keep this palette together as its own little palette. I'm going to keep it like that because I love the look that I created. It is such a beautiful, like wintry, cool. I just loved it. I loved it. So I'm going to keep them in their little home for quite a while and use this as a palette. The next palette that I used is the B palette from Lena Beauty. This is in my 50 Shades of Gold, and it is in for No Pan Left Behind. This is what it looks like, and this has been in there since April, and I had not used it at all, but I started to use it, and I did 2 looks with this. One was a purpley look that I used with some project shades, and then the other look I did with the Street Taco palette from Glamlight. This is also in my 50 Shades of Yellow project, and also for No Pan Left Behind. And I hadn't used it at all, so I decided that I was going to start using them, and I'm pretty sure I've only used the browns in that look that I created with the Lena Beauty palette. And the last palette that I used in the month of November is for today. I used it today, and it is the Beauty Bay Neutral Palette. This is the look that I created, and you can see a trend, another cool neutral palette. So I want to show you something. They're pretty identical. Like, this has more shades, obviously, but you can see the similarities. This is one of my favorite palettes. But I just decided I wanted to use the Beauty Bay today. Went to dinner with with Anthony, and then Bailey and my mom came up, and we all went to Skyline Chili, which is delish. And so I just wanted something very understated and neutral. I just have a little bit of shimmer on the lid. I didn't go crazy with the shimmers. I just wanted something very understated, but still, pretty. And this knocks it out of the park every single time. Love this. You guys, it's only like 17 bucks. And I think right now, actually, they might have them on sale. I did see them as low as like $13 during the Black Friday sales. So hard to not go in and buy more Beauty Bay palettes. so difficult. But I didn't. I didn't buy any more from Beauty Bay. I didn't. But this is a palette that I love so much that I've bought it for friends. Because I'm like, you have to try it. It's beautiful. I love it. So those were all of the palettes that I used during the month of November. Let me know in the comments below which ones were your favorites, which ones were your favorite looks. Let me know if you have these palettes, if you love them, if you don't love them. Let me know. I really appreciate you guys being here. And until our next adventure, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you later.